What's up, everybody? This is Marnick Vandebroek, and welcome to a new episode of the Stand Up Talk. And today I have, you guessed it, I always say it, but again, a special guest. And why is a special guest? First of all, I consider him a good friend. I don't see him that much, and we do a lot via LinkedIn and WhatsApp, but I consider him by now a friend. And he is anonymously, of course, mentioned in one of the funny anecdotes in the Stand Up to Stand Out book. So if you want to get to know him, try to find him in the Stand Up to Stand Out book. It is a really cool anecdote, and that's where I learned, got to know you in Switzerland. And he's already looking at me. He's already nodding, looking fresh. He has the guitars in the background if you're watching on YouTube. And the man I'm talking about, he is. I'm not gonna give his whole resume, but we got PhDs, we got MBAs, we got director of this and that. But just in general, to sum it up, he's an expert in leadership, talent development, HR, human resources, everything that has to do with getting people to grow within the company. And he's been doing it. He's looking at me like, yeah, it's a good summer.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's how I market myself. Yeah,
There
right.
you
I
go.
mean,
And
yeah.
he's been doing it for almost, if I'm not mistaken, 2 decades. He's an expert in this. And the man I am talking
Mm.
about, and give him a round of digital applause, is, I'm going to try to pronounce it right, Wojciech Zytkowiak. There you go. Welcome to the
Yeah, I
show.
mean, I'm impressed. It's more or less that. Yeah, yeah.
Nice. How
Lovely,
are you doing?
lovely.
You're looking colorful. You're looking fresh. We just had a
Yeah.
lady on the podcast that said that the new trend in fashion is that you're a tropical bird. And if I look at you, you make me happy just by seeing you on the screen.
All right. Yeah. Well, I feel very good, energetic. The weather is not very good today in Warsaw. I'm based in Warsaw. I'm working from home today. I'm full of energy, very excited. And if you mentioned fashion, I don't know if it's just by chance, but actually, I changed jobs 2 weeks ago. Right now,
Mhm.
I'm in the fashion industry. So I
Oh,
mean,
nice.
that it's to convey the message. Actually,
There, there you go. You're
it's
already practicing what you're preaching out
yeah,
there.
absolutely, absolutely. It's good that you didn't interview me, like 2 weeks ago because I was in beauty industry, makeup and
Yeah.
lipstick and stuff. So I know.
But there is a trend. You're staying in that whole feeling good, looking beautiful kind of.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Nice. Thank you for being here. Like I said, we met. I don't know how many years ago was it 3 or 4 years
I think
ago in Switzerland somewhere.
two. I think it was 2 years ago,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah,
Time flies these days. It's. I have
yeah,
no. I don't know what day it is anymore. With all the
yeah,
days being the same.
yeah, yeah. It was 2019 actually in January. Yeah,
Nice.
in
Cool.
Switzerland. Yeah,
Yeah. Cool. And cool that you're doing this because today people are like, okay, we know that he's living in Warsaw. He's into human resource, talent development, leadership. What are we going to talk about? Of course, we're going to talk about all these things. And I think it's one of the,
yeah,
besides looking like a tropical bird that is very trending right now in fashion, what is trending right now is leadership. Definitely in these COVID
all right.
times with everything being remote,
Yeah.
looking at, we're not going to dive into COVID, but into the aspect of everybody saying leadership is more necessary now than ever. So I think you're ready to dive in and actually start this episode.
Good,
So,
good.
ladies
Let's
and
do that.
gentlemen, let's dive into the brain and picking for knowledge of
Oh my
Wojciech
God. Oh
experience.
my
Don't be
God. Oh my
nervous.
God, man.
Don't be nervous. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stand Up Talk.
Are you listening? Damn.
All right, welcome back to the Stand Up Talk. This is still Marnick Vandebroek, and I'm talking to an HR leadership expert, Wojciech, a friend, someone I got to know and just spontaneously in Switzerland. And now, again, I'm here to talk about leadership and dive in. And one of the most discussed, of course, your Facebook, LinkedIn feed shows you what interests you, but I think it's one of the most discussed things right now. Leadership has always been important, working with people, developing them. But now, in these strange times where a lot of this is virtual, where the connection between people is harder, they say leadership is more necessary than ever. But before we go, I just want to get something clear because there's so many definitions out there of what true leadership is. So, from your experience, even having a PhD in it, what is
Yeah.
leadership according to you?
Uh, well, the challenge is that there's no single definition, and what you said in the beginning is very true, which is that leadership is trending, and it has been trending for the last 100 years, and that's the point, and everyone who starts to think about leadership is just to simplify it. Everyone has their own definition, and it's okay because leadership is what you want it to be. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing that I discovered. That there's no single definition that is universal enough that would make everyone happy. Because people have been thinking about it, and there is some. words like, for instance, happiness. Everyone understands what is happiness. This is really universal. So everyone can feel what is leadership, what is happiness. With leadership, it's a little bit different, because what is how you define leadership at one company might be very true, and this is it. And people will tell you, yeah, this is it. This is what how leadership looks like at our company. But the same definition will not work for all the companies. So another company or people in another company might look at it and say, no, it's complete nonsense. It's bollocks, And so leadership is actually what you want it to be. And there's different definitions. I have my own definition, not my own definition, but definition that I like, and that's the definition that was conceived by Center for Creative Leadership, and I admire them a lot. And they say that leadership is about three things. It's about the direction, alignment, and commitment. So the DAC framework: direction, alignment, commitment. Direction tells you where are we going. So for the first one, what's the destination? Alignment is about how are we going to get there. Are we, it's all the team pulling in the same direction. And then the commitment is the kind of, okay, do we actually believe in it? Do we want to do it? So it's direction, alignment, commitment. Not only that the three things need to be present in leadership, it's also about the sequence. So you can't start with a commitment if you don't have direction. You can't be really good about alignment if you don't have the direction, and you cannot do commitment before anything else. So you need to start from the top: direction, alignment, commitment. Check, 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 and then maybe if you're lucky and work hard, then you have leadership.
All right. Okay. So if I understand it, it's open for interpretation and differs in whatever
Yeah,
company, but in general,
yeah.
you stand for the direction, the commitment,
Alignment,
the
yeah,
alignment.
and commitment, yeah.
And that pretty much sums it up, I think. Because a lot of people talk
Yeah.
about, yeah, you have to practice what you preach and you have to empower people, but all that is covered in what you just said.
Also, one more comment, because yeah, I mean, leadership can the definition can be very different depending on the context. This is what I said. So what works for one company or one person will not work for the other person or the other company. It's also that it's situational, it's contextual, which means for me today at the company that I'm in, leadership might be something very different from what it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So there are some underlying principles and maybe the things that I intrinsically and deeply, inside on the value level believe in. And obviously that is not negotiable. But then what is required from me in my current role might be very different in leadership terms from what was required from me, 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And probably the requirements of tomorrow, meaning 3, 5, 10 years from now, will be very different. So it's not that that you at the age of 40, I'm 42, almost 42, that you
Still very young.
come up with this. Very young, yes, thank you. No, but what I was saying is it's not that you come up with this idea of, okay, this is leadership, I got it. No, actually it's not a static concept. It's something that evolves over time, because the context is evolving, and also you as a person, you are evolving. So it's a never ending discovery journey, I think, from leadership perspective, from individual leadership perspective.
Yeah, I think
So
I like the concept
yeah.
of that. I like the concept of like, what is leadership for you, and how does it align with your company, your values, what do you think is important, also the authenticity. But I'm gonna play a bit devil's advocate.
Yeah.
What if I'm listening right now and I'm like, well, Wojciech, um, my definition, maybe subconsciously, of leadership is that I micromanage the hell out of my team and that I'm basically the boss. Is that then okay because it aligns with my values? I know I put them a bit extreme here. Uh, what would you say with
Mm.
that?
Well, it depends, because at the end of the day, it's not just leadership for the sake of leadership,
Mhm.
because leadership is at the end of the day about results. So if you're in a corporate organization, then if you're in a business, that at the end of the day you have some objectives to achieve. So it's the market share, it's the sales, it's the profits, whatever. So I mean, are you getting closer to that or not? Do you have good results or not? At the same time, because it's not only about profit. Don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
Are your people with you? Because leadership is a social process.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you need at least two people. One of them is a leader. The other one needs to be the follower. I mean, this is more or less how it works.
Yes.
That's basically the concept. So basically, if you're alone, so if people are not following you, there's no leadership. There's only you. Maybe you have results, but people are not following. So it's not leadership, even if you think it is. So the big question is whether the people that you work with, whether they like that micromanagement, because there's some people that actually like to be and prefer to be micromanaged. And in that context, here it is, because it's very contextual. Maybe in that context, in that particular situation, maybe it's what it's needed. Yeah. But the question is, if you're going to micromanage for the next 30 years, then probably there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that's a
Sitting by,
good that's a good one. And not to say because you're a guest on the episode to say, oh, that's a good one, and I agree with you. It's that like I understand what you're saying is that it's leadership. We shouldn't necessarily define it for like this is leadership and this isn't leadership. It's like you say, contextual and it evolves over time and it has to associate with your values. And I really like it when you said, no matter what leadership is for you right now, you have to ask yourself, where do you want to go? And are people following you? And are they happy following you? If that's the case, that's what you're saying. If that's the case, you're probably doing a good job in some way in that context. But if micromanagement, for example, is good leadership, but nobody's following you, well, in your eyes, it could be good leadership, but nobody cares about it. So I really like that way of thinking. So ask yourself, as you're a leader right now, if you're listening, ask yourself, is someone following me, like you said, committed,
yeah,
happy or
yeah,
not?
yeah, yeah.
It's,
Because even if you have results and you don't have your people with you, then it's meaningless. Then it's not leadership. It's just delivering results, but it's not leadership.
I think we just,
Yeah, because again, direction, alignment, commitment. So there's the alignment part. Okay, so that the direction part. We want to get result. The alignment. How we get the result? Are we going to put more money in marketing? We're going to control costs. We're going to do this and that. At the end of the day, it's also commitment. Commitment means, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to do it for the company. I want to do it for Marnick. I want to do it for myself. Let's do it together. I'm your follower. You're the leader. Direction, alignment, commitment. It's very simple at the end of the day. Well, it's not. It's complex thing, and
yeah.
and there's many people that make a lot of money out of it. Of actually trying to figure out and helping companies trying to figure out, and individuals, the coaching, But at the end of the day, it's not that difficult. And again, you have to come up with your own vision and idea of what good leadership is.
That's a good one. Like I've always tried to put it in a box. Like this is leadership, and all the other opinions are not leadership because this is it. And now hearing you, I think I should like approach companies more in, but what is leadership for you? What context are we talking about here, and figure out what's the best for.
Yeah, and I remember that at some point I got really, like 15 years ago or so, I got really interested in wines. So I wanted to understand what is the algorithm of actually defining and or evaluating and saying that the wine is good. I'm not an expert in wines,
Mhm.
but at some point I gave up my ambition to become the wine expert. Why? Because I bought a thick book which was called The School of Wine,
There you
and
go.
I think on page 5, I read a fantastic definition of what makes a good wine. And it was the following. In English, it would be something like, a good wine is a wine that you like.
There you go.
A good leadership is leadership that you like.
Nice one.
Very same thing, right? I
Yeah.
made a connection. I made a connection now because it's the same thing. It's the same thing, man.
Yeah. It's
Very
this is
simple.
this aha moment. Indeed.
Yeah.
Nothing more than
Let's write
that.
a book. Let's write a book.
There you go. I was thinking the same thing. This is leadership reinvent. Okay, I'm not gonna post this episode. I'm gonna keep it until we launch our book before before anyone's. But that's what it's about. Yeah. And if people don't like it, they won't follow you, and you're not a leader because,
Yeah,
like you say, you don't.
absolutely.
Oh my God. Okay, so we'll
You're
wrap up
getting
the
there,
episode
and
here.
it's for free. It's for free. It's for free, man. Just
Yeah.
take it. Take it. Pick me, man.
There you go. Let's continue that. You say that. Okay, that is leadership, and it changes contextually. Well, we
Yeah.
are, and like I said, we're not going to do the what's going on in world COVID. There's so much talk about it, but it is a context that has changed companies drastically. You can't deny it. Like also say when I talk to people that are in transformation or digital transformation, technology transformation, said that the World Health Organization is the biggest driver of digital transformation ever, which is funny, but it's also true. And looking at leadership, but also looking at developing people, leading people, driving that culture, everything that has to do with getting those people committed, aligned, and to that purpose where you want to go. How did that change? How do you see it right now? Where is it going? Is it all the same but just virtual, or did it reshape the entire way of doing things?
That's a difficult one, and I think that there's a one correct answer. So if we think about leadership, has it changed? I think it has not changed. So what is expected from leaders? It's the same thing. It's the direction, alignment, commitment. What changes is that it's very difficult to talk about the direction part, right? Because it's so complex, it's so ambiguous, it's so uncertain. So and people want answers because if it gets blurry, it's kind of affects you on psychological level. So you don't know where you go. You don't know if your job is going to be there like 6 months from now because maybe your company is going to bankrupt. So I think leaders have a lot on their shoulders, because actually the last part, which is also the commitment, it's much harder right now, because you cannot just chat over coffee. Obviously, you can do to some extent, when you work remotely, but it's not the same thing. And one of the things that I've been, that I think are very, very important and almost impossible in virtual setting is that, when you are a leader, you have to have this, not really the intuition, but this capacity to be like a human sensor. It's not my idea. I took it from a book. If you want, we can talk about the book later. So you have to be a human sensor, and that means imagine that you have your team, and it's in like open space of 20, 30 people, right? And you come to work every day, you greet them, you talk to them, you make jokes and stuff, and you kind of understand the mimics of everyone. So so this is their baseline kind of behavior, right, when they are okay.
Yeah.
And suddenly one day you come and you see Marnick, and Marnick is kind of this, and you say, okay, there's something wrong with Marnick. Maybe it's not important, maybe it is. So the next day you come in again, you see that Marnick he's different. He's not full of energy. He's just starting his computer. That's not very Marnick. So you go and talk to Marnick, because you just see it. You can scan the environment. You can read those tiny signals that he sends, and subconsciously, etc. When if you're at home, even if you have a call, etc., you don't have those spontaneous moments where you can be a human sensor.
Yeah.
And that's what I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know how to do it, and I'll be very frank about it. And this is what makes it very difficult, I think. So how to be really good at maintaining human connections and sensing the environment, what people are feeling, the emotions when you're online. I mean, I don't know how to do it. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it answers your question, but this is what has been troubling me for the last year.
It does, because it's easy to say, well, you just have to do more meetings or online coffee moments or whatever. But the fact that you don't have that day in, day out sensing, is something wrong? Is the right
Yeah,
motive? You don't have that
yeah.
if you schedule the calls.
Yeah, because sometimes it's just that you just see it. You just see it there. That you hear a conversation that is not really meant to be heard by you. You just read the signals from the environment, right? And this is what I believe great leaders are good at. And if you're at home, kind of disconnected, obviously, when you schedule a call, some people don't even switch on the cameras. I always ask people, switch on the camera. I want
Yeah,
to see your
me
face,
too.
and I just, okay, let me see your face,
Yeah.
because that's the important part. Not just listening to the words, but to all the signals, everything. The choice of words and everything. So what is the message that the person is trying to convey? Or what is in between words, and then what is the message that the body of the person is sending subconsciously? This is very important, and sometimes it can do miracles. And well, if somebody figures and cracks the code of it,
Hmm.
how to do it online skillfully, I mean, they will be very
Share.
rich.
Yeah, that's it is, and we can't solve everything. We just solved the
No.
definition of leadership, so we cannot do everything
Yeah.
right now in this podcast. But I think that's also a thing about leadership, like showing and maybe it's a heavy word, but showing the vulnerability of saying, like you just said, did I think about it, but I don't know. Same with me. I have no clue how to solve that. And
Yeah.
that's also something. And if someone knows right now, if you're listening, please share, or also write a book about it, or something like Wojciech says, you're going to be rich.
Yeah. 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 It's funny that you mentioned vulnerability. I need to show the book. Can I show another book
You
on the
can.
show?
This is your show.
Yeah.
I'm just a tool.
3 seconds,
Yeah,
man.
go ahead.
Because I mentioned when I said the human sensory thing. Um, it was from this book.
Why should anyone be led
Anyone
by
be
you?
led by you? Fantastic book. It was
Coffee
written by
break.
Garrett Jones and Rob Goffey. I met Garrett in 2008, I think, at the HR executive course. I think he's, if I recall very well, he's the former vice president of human resources of the BBC, so the British Broadcasting Corporation. So a lot of experience. And those guys wrote an article which was chosen, I think, Harvard Business Review, McKinsey Award, Best Article of the Year.
Yeah.
And it's based on research, so it's not blah blah. It's really like based on serious
Solid.
research, right? And they talk about things which authentic leaders. We also touched the topic of authenticity before. That authentic leaders do very well. And so what what makes a great leader stand out from the crowd? And one of the things is being the human sensor. So it's what we discussed before. The thing which I haven't cracked yet how to do online. But the second thing, and this is what they say, and there is a chapter called like that, goes like show your weakness, show your weakness, and this is beautiful. This is beautiful, really, because you know the problem is that some people think about benefit. You need to be macho. So I mean, you need to be superhuman, right? No bullshit. I mean, sorry, pardon the expression, but
You can say whatever.
yeah, because people don't want to follow superhumans. They want to see still, okay, you're the boss, you're the leader, maybe you're the president of the company, the chairman, the top guy, maybe you're on your 15th floor, etc. You have your private jet, etc. They still want to see a human in you with that you live your life with your humanity and mistakes and all that. And what the book says and what the research says is that the great leaders, they are really okay to show their weaknesses. So they come and say, hey, I'm not perfect. So there's a lot of things that make me a successful leader. But there's this one, two, or three things which, well, I have to be very careful about. So please do help me. So each time that I do that, please tell me, because I don't want to be like that, or cover for me, or compensate the weaknesses that I have. So that's the thing. So they show that they're a human, and they give the others the so the freedom and the power to actually compensate what their weaknesses are, because they are acknowledging maybe this is not something that I'm going to be able to work on. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is that they are 100% in control, because what I said before about the nature of leadership followership is that we don't want to follow superhumans. So if you, Marnick, if you tell me I'm a superhuman, I'm a super leader, I don't have any weaknesses, I will certainly find a weakness myself in you.
Yeah.
So I'll say, no, there's this thing which you have, which you don't know that you have, but I can see it. So once you come up to your team and say, yes, there's weaknesses that I have, and here they are, 1, 2, 3, people don't have to figure them out. Mm-hmm. And you're 100% in control. So this is okay as long as it's not, mission critical. Meaning, if you're a finance director, and you say, I'm not good with numbers, guys, you need to help me. Or, in my case, I'm a human resources director, but I don't like people, So if you can just, close the door and just talk to people, I'll do my stuff, PowerPoints and stuff. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. Maybe change your job and stuff.
Yeah.
So this is it. Yeah, vulnerability, showing that you're vulnerable, that you have weaknesses, that you're a human, makes you more, makes you more human, and makes you more likely to be, that you're going to be followed, because we want to work with people.
Yeah, you're seen as stronger, even though you're seen as stronger. And I really like the fact that you said people don't want to follow superhumans.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also shows that you're self-aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, because also we don't like people who are too full of themselves and thinking that they know everything, that they're the best with everything, because nobody is.
But what do you do? What do you do? And like I said, I'm not expecting you to have all the answers, but I know this is a frequent question that I see when I'm at conferences, virtual or not, when we're talking about that vulnerability on leadership. And maybe there's an easy answer to it. I don't know, but I see a lot of people asking, but I want to, but I'm in a context, a current company, where I get the feeling that I am not allowed to show those weaknesses, like you said, because it's perceived as not, even though you're a man or a woman, doesn't matter, as macho enough. And well, the solution can always be change jobs. How leaders listening right now, how do they deal if they want to, but they feel that they're in a context that doesn't allow it?
Yeah, that's a philosophical question a little bit because if you're in an organization, because okay, so here it is. The situation is the following. If I understand correctly, so there's a leader who believes that they have weaknesses and that it's okay to show those weaknesses, right? So that's the
Yep.
situation that we have, and it's really that leader believes in that truly and deeply, and he believes that this is what is going to make people follow him, etc., or her. And then you have the company which say, no, 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 our leaders, they don't have weaknesses. We're superheroes and stuff. So basically there's two options. And I think it's not rocket science. On the other hand, I think it's a little bit cliche because yes, either you change the system from within, so you try to convince the other guy that it's okay, and maybe you're the first one to break that, approach, or you have to change jobs. There's a third option, which is giving up on your ideals. So don't do it. I mean, would you really do it? No, I think not, because at the end of the day, what is also important is our values. We mentioned, and I mentioned authenticity, and being authentic means okay, walking the talk, being true to your intrinsic values, and just not crossing that border of actually doing things which you shouldn't be doing because you feel that it's not okay.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. So either you say, okay, this is what I believe in, so I'm going to try to change this company. Maybe not the whole company, because sometimes it's like, okay, no, it's a 100,000 people company. How am I going to change from my level?
Yeah.
Okay, try to change, your team, your what's around your cubicle, maybe your floor, maybe the neighborhood floor. I don't know. It's maybe about your team. Okay, maybe you can contain it, and then maybe you can maybe it becomes contagious. So it's that. But I think, Marnick, that the other question is that if we have that situation of that person who truly believes that they should show their weaknesses, and they find themselves in a company that doesn't believe in that, how did it happen? How did it
Yeah,
happen?
this is
Because how did
yeah.
it happen? Because when you were recruited by a company, you should really be careful and very inquisitive about the kind of leadership culture the company has. And if it's not, matching your values and how you define leadership, uh, then you have a problem. It either means that you didn't ask the question or you were lied to, right? Because what I mean, this is essential. I mean, if I have my definition of leadership and I say this is what good leadership looks at, so while in interview, I should ask the headhunter or the recruitment manager, okay, tell me about the leadership culture. What is accepted? What is expected? What is not, etc. How good leadership looks like at your company,
Yeah.
and then you say, okay, you like me, but I don't like you,
It'd
and
have to
so
be
it's not
matched.
going to work for us because it's So that would be my answer.
Right. So basically, if you're listening and you're in that dilemma, like I'm at a company, but worked there for years, probably grew through the ranks, and I'm in that point that I'm like, I want to be that leader that shows vulnerability, knows where to go, and wants to get the people committed. It's three things: or you quit your job because you're not in the right company. You have to have the courage to start with your small team and say, well, I'm going to do it if you like it or not, and might make a
And see
movement.
what happens. And see
Yeah.
what happens.
Well, basically, what you're saying, and that's a good one. Basically, what if you're that person, you're saying to yourself, I want to be that leader that's authentic to myself and my values, but I'm working in a context that is not linked to that. And this might sound hard, but as I understand it correctly, you're actually betraying yourself as a leader a bit,
Yeah.
because you're saying I'm saying in a context that I don't really believe in, and I'm afraid to be myself, but I still have to lead people in a certain way.
Yeah, and then there's the mismatch, and then obviously you can't really fake it because people see it,
Mhm.
and because you say one thing, you do the other, and obviously it's seen by the others. So again, not authentic,
Yeah.
and it's also the internal conflict, and it eats you every day. You don't even feel it, you don't see it, but it eats you. If it's against your values, it eats you while you sleep, etc. Your cortisol level spikes and stuff, and you die.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. I mean, it's not good because at the end of the day, it's just a job. I mean, so is it worth it? Is it really? I mean, again, depends because people have different ideas about what is important in life. Some people really focus 100% on work, and it's also okay because whatever makes you happy. So there's again no easy answer and no universal answer that will be true 100% true for everyone.
Mhm.
But it's good that that we ask ourselves those questions, and it's good that we ask ourselves those questions before situations happen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we really discover that, oh my god, it's so against my values and stuff, I can't do it anymore. Because obviously you can recover, but it's painful. It's completely unnecessary if you ask yourself those questions well in advance, and if you think well about what's your next career stop. What kind of leader do you want to be? What kind of leader you don't want to be? It's also important because we learn as leaders, and we're as humans, we learn from good examples and bad examples.
Yeah.
So finding yourself for a limited period of time in a bad leadership context is also good,
Yeah. You
because
learn
then
from it.
you're very clear about the things that you don't want to do, the culture that you don't want to build is also a good thing. It also happened to me. I had good bosses and maybe not so good bosses, and I've seen fantastic leaders and very bad leaders, and I learned from all of them. I can tell you, I learned from all of them, and also my PhD research, where I interviewed a bunch of leaders at different stages of career, from very early leadership career to 30, 40 years of career. They said the same, that you learn a lot from very good leaders and from very bad leaders. These are the leaders that you remember. You don't
Yeah.
remember the leaders that are in between,
Yeah.
kind of, it's just one side of the spectrum, the other side of the spectrum, because it's connected with emotions. It's very good emotions for very good leaders, very bad traumatic sometimes emotions for very bad leaders. That's what we remember. That's what we learn with. And the learning is not about experiences. It's about the reflection we have about those experiences. So it's not like, I was in a bad leadership situation, I don't want to, I don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. No, it's about what are the conclusions I'm going to draw for my career, for the
Mhm.
way I lead, for my organization, etc. So yeah.
Yeah. And there's so much in there. It's
I
like,
know. I'm sorry. I'm
no,
not
it's a
like
good
that.
one.
That's my weakness, because I'm kind of poo 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 poo
It's a
poo poo.
compliment. It's a compliment because they're in there. Like, people remember the emotions. It's also what we talked about when we first met in Switzerland. Like,
Yeah,
you remember
yeah,
the people that stand out in a bad way, in a good way, and how they made you feel. And then you ask yourself, what can I learn from this? But there's also in there that
yeah.
yeah, that you're, like we say, we're not superhuman. So you're gonna be at a certain point in your career in a bad situation. Don't panic, and don't be too clingy to your job or your current context. You might be able to change it, but sometimes it's also okay to leave. Because if I look at myself, I loved working at before I started this company, at my corporate job. I really loved it. It was great. I didn't leave because it was bad, but also there I thought I was irreplaceable. I was the man with the plan, and I left. And
Cool.
even before I had my last day, someone else already took my job. So it was like, that's how important I am. So don't cling on too much. That's what you're saying. Oh, cool. And I want to dive into one particular point that you just said is, if you do all that, like, you want to be that leader in that context, and let's say for a moment that you choose to say, I'm going to start that movement inside the company, I'm going to change my team, I'm going to change the way we do things. But generally, also in any form of change, is it digitalizing, innovating,
Yeah, yeah.
way of working, have to do everything virtual. You have a tremendous, and that's not to suck up to you, but you have a tremendous career and background in working with people, getting them to do better, elevating them, to training, to leading them.
Not always, but yeah, we would find some positive examples there as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe majority, but not 100% successful in that. But yeah,
And
yeah.
how
Go
do
on, go on. Sorry.
how do you do that? Because that's the biggest question we also get when we're talking about storytelling and
Yeah.
get people to how do you change people? How do you make them grow? Because most of the leaders I talk to is like, it's resistance. People will not change, don't want to change, uh, want it in theory, but keep doing the same
Yeah.
thing like a program.
Yeah.
What is your golden nuggets there on how to get people to really grow?
Well, that's a difficult one, because there's no single answer that will work for everyone. But my experience tells me that I think motivation to change is important. Okay, so do you want to do it or not? That's the first question, because if you don't want to do it, it's very hard to change. And the change, I think, This is something that I've been discussing lately, like for the last year or two, with one of my colleagues. Because we discuss a lot the development, how to help people grow effectively, so that the
Yeah.
change is there and that it can be sustained over time. And I think it all starts with self awareness, and because it's the foundation.
Mhm.
So the first question is, do you understand yourself? What are your strengths? What are your unique strengths? What makes you, when I say unique strengths, means what makes you stand out from the crowd,
Yes.
something that you're very talented, very good at, something that you do better than most. Which you already know, my thing is not playing guitars. I'm very, not maybe bad at it, but not very good at it. So that's
Yes.
not my strength. Okay, it's there, but it's not my strength. Where are my weaknesses? Where are my weaknesses? Which of the weaknesses are the weaknesses that are here to stay, because they are not really critical? Which are the weaknesses that I want to work on, and maybe the ones that I really want to reveal so that people can compensate for me and stuff. So that's the first thing. So understanding yourself, and then it's also not only understanding but accepting who you are. Again, authenticity kicks in. So not trying to be the person that you're not. So that's the second level, right? So first I understand, then I accept, and only then I can start to change things. That's how more or less also coaching works. So very deep self-awareness, not a superficial one, very deep self-awareness. It starts with
It's
that. So
it's a
yeah.
good one. Just to interrupt, but I'm gonna let you continue in a second because you're on
Yeah.
the train of thought. But I really like that one because if I look at myself, and this podcast is not about me, but just to show you that I
Yeah,
understand me,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about the
yeah.
guitar. I when COVID hit, yeah, well, a lot of things got canceled, and I had a lot of time on my hand, and I was too looking at the guitars. I have a guitar here at home, bought it somewhere in, I don't know, school, and I was like, now is the time that I'm going to teach myself to play the guitar, and I'm going to do this because I want to be a musician. If I see him on TV rocking the guitar, I want to do that. And
Yeah, me
after a
too. Yeah.
while, I had to admit to myself, I am not enjoying this. I know I still have a lot to learn, but this is not me. I am not a musician, not in the guitar way. Not this. I want the idea of being able to rock the guitar, but I don't like it. And it's a weakness that I can't do it, but it's also a weakness, like you said, that I don't want to improve, but because I discovered I don't really care. And that's also a good one, what you say, like find your weaknesses that you want to work on, find your weaknesses that you have, but not necessarily will help you because it's not for you, and don't try
Yeah.
to be someone else.
Yeah, yeah. So it all starts with self-awareness on a very deep level. So again, understanding yourself, accepting who you are not, and then the big question: what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And then in that, the motivation and the attitude is really important, because you can help people, but you can't help people that don't want to help themselves. So that's it. I mean, I've seen, a lot of situations where companies were, investing in people development and forcing people to, go to that executive education thing, and people were kind of, okay, it's good. It's a kind of a nice trip. So, Chicago and stuff, or London. So I go, obviously, I'll have sushi and stuff. And then, by the way, I'll go to that university. It's probably, I mean, I don't believe in it. Yeah. Because if you really want to spend big bucks on executive education, I mean, you will see your return on investment, or maybe return on expectations from corporate perspective, when the person that you're sending, if they are hungry for knowledge, hungry for skills, if they really want to go the extra mile. So you tell them, okay, it's the 8 hours, and they say, okay, it's 8 hours a day, but then I'll go back to my hotel room, I'll study more. I mean, it will, yeah, fantastic, let's do it. I'll show you that I'm worth it, etc. So this is very important. Understanding whether you're a true learner or a tourist, or
Good
a
quote.
hostage,
Good
or a
quote.
hostage. Actually, this is also a framework for certificate leadership. They say that if you're in a corporate or a leadership, or leadership and development role, and you invest a lot of money in leadership academies, training academies, etc., you'll probably have three types of participants. The first participant is a tourist. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's London. So I love London. I go to London.
Yeah, it's
So
fun.
that's the tourist. Yeah, fun. Yeah. The second one is a hostage. The hostage tells you, shit, I don't want to go, but I have to go, because if I say no, it's not
Yeah.
correct. So I'll just go. I don't need it, I don't want it, there's so many things that I have on my plate, so that's a hostage approach. And the last one is the learner. The learner says, finally, I'll show them,
Yeah.
and you need to really understand, so there's people who are good performers who have fantastic potential, but at the end of the day, if you really want to develop people, you need to ask yourself a question: are they just the travelers? Are they the hostages, or are they the true learners? And this is it. It's again, it's very simple, no?
Yeah, everything's we could just wrap this up in one page in the book. And is it
Wow.
possible? Is it possible? It's maybe a sneaky question, but is it possible to change hostages into learners, or is it not possible?
Yeah, I think it is, because it all depends on your on where you're going in your life. What is your destination? What is important for you? And it changes over time. So it was, by definition, by nature, I'm a curious person. I like to learn, but what I've seen in the course of the last 20 years or so is that many things about me change and evolved, and
Mm.
the way I saw world, and relationships, and also leadership, and work, and what is good or bad in life, it changes over time, and I think you can, maybe you're a hostage because you're in the wrong place. Maybe you're a hostage because you're in that organization that is not tuned into what you believe a good leadership is, and maybe you're in the wrong place. And going back to the first question that you asked me, how can I help you to be at your best?
There you
So
go.
if someone is a hostage, the big question is: are they the hostage because this is who they are, always
Mhm.
possible, or are they the hostage because we've made them a hostage? So again, I'm thinking from a corporate perspective,
Yeah.
is that it's not always black and white. It's like digging in and trying to understand, why they are the way they are. If there's anything that we can do to change their attitude. But what I'm also saying is that if you can't change it, if you can't crack the code, I mean, don't invest in them, and you'd be better off by investing, the same amount of money
Yeah.
into somebody else. Even if it's not about money, even if it's your time. So because, for instance, if you're a leader or HR professional, regardless of your role, one of your responsibilities is developing others, and time is a scarce resource. So the time that you have is limited. Obviously, you can work, long hours and stuff, but it will probably be at the expense of your personal
Yeah, it will be
stuff,
draining.
yeah. So you have those, you say, okay, I want to dedicate 4 hours a week to coaching, like individual development conversations. And the big question is, who are the 4 people that I'm going to meet this week? And I want to meet the learners, not the hostages, not the travelers. That's the thing. And maybe I'll meet the hostage, you know uh, once, and I'll tell them, okay, I see that you're a hostage.
Mhm.
Do you want to be a learner? Are you a learner deep inside of you? I mean, if you are, come back. If you are not, don't come back, because I would rather invest my time into somebody who really wants to learn, who sees the purpose in it, and who will go the extra mile, because then it matters, and then it's fun, and then I see that someone is really into that ping pong and stuff, and that they are very thankful, and this is what kind of fuels me.
All right. So actually, you should ask yourself, if you're a leader, like, what, I really like that. Like, do I have tourists? Do I have hostages? Do I have learners? The learners I can focus on. The hostages, I need to figure out, are they in the right place? How can I help? First question that you
Yeah.
said. And then what do you do with the tourists? Just a fun question. What do you do with the tourists? You let them be tourists, let them cruise them along.
I don't know what I do about tourists. It's it's the point is why they are not interested in learning. It's the
Yeah,
same thing, because being a tourist is a good thing. It's just about what comes first.
very
And
relaxed.
yeah, I think.
Nice. And what's because looking at timing, I've a few more. What role do you think? Because also looking at your background, what role now and in the future and everything that we discussed does HR play in this development, in this leadership? Because I hear a lot of things that we discussed, and then when you talk about it in the company world, it's like, yeah, but it's a responsibility of HR. Where's that profession, human resources, wherever you are in the corporate ranks? Where's human resources going? according to you? Because the reason I'm asking, I told you
Yeah.
before, I can't remember his name, but he's this famous CEO with very extreme uh, convictions, beliefs. And he said, and I was like, whoa, that's in your face. He said, the best thing about my HR department is there's only two people
That it
left.
doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they're almost close to retirement. And you saw the whole crowd being like, what did you just say? What is your scope on that?
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good question, and again, there's no easy answer for that, but because it differs from one company to the other. You know, I think that the purpose and the principal role of HR is to challenge, to change the status quo, and so the first is to challenge, not to be like an HR waiter. So the waiter comes and, what do you want? Okay, this and that. Okay, fantastic. I'll give you that. No, it's giving the organization not what they want, but what they really need. Not what they want, not what they say they want. Maybe it's the same thing. Maybe it's the thing that they need. Maybe it is not. So having this assertive approach and stuff. So challenging the status quo and not going for the first obvious answer. So that's the thing, first thing. And the second, again, which leads to the question that I would ask to a new hire, is yeah, it's being being the enablers of human potential, because the potential is there, right?
Yeah.
It's how do we make people work and be at their best, or go the extra mile? This is the thing. So how do we do it? I mean, so being the enabler, to challenge and enable people. And I think the last one would be to to force people, in case they are not doing it already, to think long term and to think scenarios, to think about what future holds, because we have this tendency of actually being really in this cubicle of today, the short term, the midterm, and the world is changing rapidly. The whole concept of exponential growth. And if you imagine, you're in the 40s. I had that reflection when I was turning 40, which was 2 years ago, and I was thinking, Jesus Christ, I'm getting really old, and I'm close to retirement. And then I was like, you know, I have my like 15 years of career behind me, and about 30 years in front of me. That means I'm not even halfway through.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, the life is only starting now. And that means that, and then I was reflecting about the things that have changed over the last 15 years for me in the world, the technology, the organizations, how they work, etc. I mean, imagine what happens within the next 5 to 10 years. And probably, the skills that make us successful today will be completely obsolete between 5 to 10 years from now. So the big question is, what the future holds and how can we prepare for that? And I think it's about that. So the kind of, the planning forward, thinking scenarios. There's the scenario A, B, and C. How are we going to be useful not today, but 5 or 10 years from now? Because this is eventually, what we're thinking about. Also, company or corporate strategy is, not only how are we going to succeed in business terms, but what are the skills and capabilities that our people need in order to get the company there and to be, winning in the market now and today, but 3, 5, and 10 years from now. And so once again, the challenging, the enabling, and planning for the future that is far away, but not really far away.
Or replace them by machines, some might say.
Yeah, this is, in a way, this is actually happening in my company. So we have a lot of robots in our logistics,
Yeah.
and this is actually I just finished my the first round of my onboarding meetings, and I was talking to our logistics director, and I was asking him about the biggest challenges that we were facing as a company, and he was telling me that with all the robots and automation that we have in place, he has problems with people actually acknowledging how do you work, how do you form teams with machines, that it's not the us humans and the machines, it's that because it's there, it's moving and stuff, and how can we build effective teams, human machine teams? This is really happening. This is not science fiction. It is actually happening in my company in logistics. Amazing story. Amazing story.
It already sounds maybe saying, because so many times you hear like, machines are replacing people, and now you're saying with the question we should ask ourselves, because the machines are there and coming anyway, how do we merge those teams with
Yes,
machines? It
yes.
even rhymes, teams with machines. That's a good
With the
slogan.
machine. And I deeply disagree with the expression, machines replacing humans. I mean, this is like, maybe this is what happens, but I see it from a completely different perspective. What happens is that the machines are taking over the things which are transactional, which are not creating value, so that humans can do more meaningful things. And this is beautiful, isn't it? I mean, because they are freeing our capacity, so that we can do better. I think, I think we only see benefits, like 5 or 10 years from now, and there's a huge transformation that is ahead of us. And obviously there is always the bright side, and there's always the downside. But I think you have to look at it from the opportunity perspective. It's not a threat of us completely replaced by machines and becoming useless. No, it's about thinking about which are the skills that I have today, or the competencies where I will be replaced by the machines. And then what are the skills of the future? What are the things which, or the skills, the knowledge, the situations where humans will not likely be replaced by machines, and how I can do better at that. And this is it. And I think at the end of the day, our lives and in professional sense are going to become more meaningful, because we're going to do less transactional things and more things that require creativity, free thinking, connecting things in a way that, at least for the moment,
Yeah.
only humans can do.
And that's also beautiful, because the circle is round. Because you said that just a while back, you said you have the learners, the hostages, and the tourists. And if you're listening right now and you have people in your team, or maybe yourself, and you're thinking like, oh no, I'm still in the machines are gonna replace people phase, and you're a hostage to that situation, like you said, um, you need to ask yourself, but what are my strengths? How do I stand out? What can I do better? What is meaningful? I'm just repeating your words.
Yeah,
What is meaningful, and focus on that, because like you said, the machine is going to replace the transactional
yeah,
things that you don't want to focus on anyway. So you can choose: am I going to be a learner and develop those strengths and stand out, or am I going to stay the hostage and might be in the end replaced? And you're talking about merging the teams with the
yeah.
machine, just because everybody's in
Yeah,
the machine.
and one more comment, if I may, because you touched that topic before. It's like, I've heard that like a number of times in development conversations. People were telling me, because one of the questions that I ask in development conversations is, okay, tell me, what have you developed the skills and the knowledge over the last 6, 12 months or 2 years, etc. You know, what have you done? I mean, to improve your skills and competencies and stuff. And some people, they say, the company hasn't given me any opportunities to improve my skills and stuff. And say, no, 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 no. I ask, what have you done? And this is the thing, because at the end of the day, whether you can grow or develop out of a company depends on three things. The first thing is obviously whether the company wants to invest in you or not. They give you programs and opportunities, yes or no. Okay.
Yeah.
They either give you or not. I mean, okay, you can try to do it. You can ask for more training and stuff. Sometimes it's not possible for objective reasons. Then obviously it's about the boss that you have. Is it a good leader? If it's a good leader, probably they will invest in you. If it's a bad leader, well, bad luck. What can you do? I mean, we don't choose our bosses. We can eventually change jobs, right? The only thing that you control in full is yourself. No excuses.
Exactly.
If you want to learn, you will find a way to learn. And especially nowadays, YouTube and stuff. If you want to, learn how to play guitar, there's number of free lessons on YouTube, and you can do it much more effectively and quickly than 10 or 20 years ago, because it was very difficult at that time, because you needed to find someone who would teach you and show you. Now there's a
Yeah.
zillion of
That's
people showing things on the internet for free. Knowledge and skills are available for anyone who's a learner.
that's
Fantastic,
that's
isn't it? That's
that's a good
beautiful,
one.
man.
That's a good one to end on. Yeah. So if you
Yeah,
really want it, and you're a learner,
yeah,
it's there, it's available.
yeah,
The excuses.
yeah.
And there, I want to end with that, because that's a beautiful thing to end there. But I still have one question. And like you said, teams merging with machines in my new company, in
New
what you're
company.
doing. Because you practice what you preach. Like we said, leaders have to
Yeah,
also show a bit what they do, practice what you preach. working, if I'm not mistaken, for around 17 years in a corporate job, had
Yeah.
a tremendous career, grew. And then after 17 years in a very, from my perception, of course, I don't know your life, but a comfy position where people are like, I have this great company, beautiful job, big experience, probably living a certain dream in the corporate, and then you decide, you know what I'm going to do at 42 years old? I'm going to quit my job. 17 years career, and I'm going to do something else. That shows people that the change is possible no matter where you are in career, and you can do other stuff. But what is the reasoning behind that you said after all those time, well, I'm going to do something else? Because it's, for a lot of people, this is a big jump,
Mm,
definitely after so many years.
yeah. There's a number of reasons, but basically it comes down to two or three things. I think at the end of the day, the first is that change is good, and at some point you become too comfortable and you're on autopilot. Like cruising. It's very comfortable, and you just you control everything. Nothing ever surprises you again and stuff. Is that what you want for you? Yes or no? So that was a little bit of that. I'm not saying that the job was not challenging. No, it was, but the change is good, and sometimes we need to leave our proverbial or mythical comfort zone in order to improve. And that was a little bit my situation. So I definitely needed more challenges, working with different people, trying myself out in a different company culture, in different setting, etc. So that was the first thing, the desire to actually to go through a big change, and to prove that whatever made me successful at my previous company can also make me successful somewhere else, in order to evolve at the end of the day, because I believe I'm a true learner. So that's the first thing. The second, I think, yeah, it was connected to the machines. It was connected to the machines because I think 2 or 3 years ago I met a friend of mine in Berlin. He's Polish, very bright guy, PhD, worked corporate job, fantastic, like global VP of the robots and stuff,
Yeah, all
in a
important stuff.
consulting company.
Yeah.
And he created his own company that is based on artificial intelligence, and it's a startup, but it's it will be very successful. I'm sure of that. And he was talking a lot of technology, humans, machines. It was like 3 years ago, and I was, oh my god, it's already happening. There's companies that really do that, think about that, and that was like a aha moment when I realized, no, I'll need to find myself a place with a company that actually has robots and all that stuff. And suddenly, knock knock, somebody goes, and there's company with robots.
Yeah.
I'm
Nice.
obviously
Yeah, there's a whole.
this simplistic approach, but it was like that because I knew that I wanted to work in a company that has technology and robots in its in its DNA. Even though it's in the fashion industry and stuff, but there's so much automation. There's so many robots and stuff over there, and it's fascinating because I want to write that story. I want to be the you know take part in that kind of stuff. Because the future is already here.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, that was it, because I went there for one of the interviews, and they made a smart thing because they told me, the HR team, that was brilliant, fantastic strategy. Before I met the CEO in person, they took me to the warehouse to show me the robots. I say, you like the robots? You see,
Yeah.
there's a Star
Very good.
Wars thing, isn't it? I say, oh my god, man, this is fantastic. Man, that was a beautiful foreplay, and they bought me at that point, and that was the conversation with the CEO, which obviously confirmed my
Yeah.
beliefs, etc. And this is it. So again, the desire to change, and actually seeing that the world is all about the machines, automation, and stuff, and technology exponential growth, and I want to be a part of that, because also I was really being afraid of one day getting replaced by
Yeah.
machines. So
Yeah.
what do I need to do
Yeah.
in order not to be replaced? Well, learn more about machines. Where can you do that? In a company that has robots and machines. So very
Makes
simple.
sense. Makes
Very
sense.
simple. Makes sense, man.
They're in the essence, again, it's very simple if you think about it. It's very simple.
Yeah,
All right, cool. So if I sum it up, I'm not going to do the whole episode again, but just to recap, I heard
yeah.
defining leadership yourself, and as long as people are following, you're doing something right, and it depends on the context and where you want to
Yeah.
go. And it's yeah. What was a beautiful quote you said? I need to listen to the episode again, but the if they like what you're doing and you're leading the thing we're going to write a book about, you get it. It's you define it yourself. Show vulnerability. If you can't show vulnerability in your current job, ask yourself, am I going to change the movement in the company, or am I just in the wrong place and it doesn't align with
Yeah.
me? That change comes from yourself, being self-aware. Are you a tourist? Are you a learner? Are you a hostage? The world is changing. HR has a role to play to enable people, and the machines are there. The future is here, and you got to ask yourself, what do I like? What I can do? Stand out, learn. Like you said, change your job. Don't be afraid to do it, because you take that baggage along to the new job. It's not just the company where you work for, but it's what you have learned
Yeah.
from bad bosses, good bosses.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Bringing it all together. Well, leader or not, or employee or whatever, you're gonna rock it. That's my
Yeah.
conclusion of everything you talked about. I super grateful. I think there's so many golden nuggets. I'm looking forward to re-listening this episode again as we are
Lovely.
going through it, because I'm writing stuff down myself. I hope you enjoyed it. The last hour.
I did. I did. Can I say one more thing?
No,
Because
you
this is,
can't. This is
you know,
over. It's the end of the episode. Go ahead.
you're the funny guy here,
Yeah, there
right?
you go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because there's this 70-20-10 model, which means that 70% of our learning comes from experience, 10% comes from the training in classroom, going to schools and stuff, and 20% comes from social interactions. So basically, it's about figuring out who are the people that will actually make you think and reflect about things. And I'm very thankful for that conversation. And I'm not saying it because it's nice thing to say to a host on a show like that, because that, all the hosts will see it and
Yeah.
they'll maybe invite me and stuff. But no, because you asked me some good questions, and obviously you sent me a list of questions that you might be asking, etc. But I didn't prepare because it was really an exchange of thought, which was very meaningful. So I learned a lot because I made some connections,
Mhm.
like the leadership and the wine. Oh my God, it's the
There you
same
go.
thing.
Boom.
Boom. And there were like 3 or 5 things that I figured out thanks to you. So thank you very much,
There
my
you go.
friend. That
I
was
already see.
and
I
that,
already see your book cover. Like leadership is
man.
like good wine. You like it or not. That was the quote I was looking for.
Very well, sir.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is there any way that people listening right now? I'm gonna put the book that you mentioned from
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in the comment. I'll. Is there something that people can connect with you? Do they do it through LinkedIn? Do you have a
LinkedIn,
website?
yeah. LinkedIn is my thing for the moment. Yeah.
All right.
LinkedIn is my thing, and I'm there and I'm replying to messages. Unless you want to sell me something, then I'll probably not reply. But if you want to make a connection, and then and especially if you want to talk leadership development,
Yeah.
people development, and that's me.
All right. Coach, I really want to thank you for this. It's great. I'm gonna put all the links in the description so they can connect with you.
Lovely.
Glad you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. The people listening right now, coming from all the different countries, also to the Polish friends that are there, hopefully
Yeah.
joining into the podcast. Like, oh my God, the stand up
Yeah.
talk.
Oh
I
my
want to
God,
thank.
it's so good, man.
There you
So
go.
good.
I want to thank you
Yeah.
for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Connect with Wojciech, and the next episode will come next month pretty soon. We're going to talk about something completely different. But if you're a leader, keep leading, keep people following, liking you, and see you next time, ladies and gentlemen. This was a stand up talk.
Thank you.
Are you listening?